Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books. First, a little quick channel update. Over the month of June, you're going to start seeing a lot of messes and boxes and piles of things behind me. So my apologies if that ends up in the frame. I'm going to try to cut that out of the frame, but it's not always possible. I'm going to be moving sometime in June and packing stuff up. But okay, the month of June is exciting, not just because I'm going to be moving in this month, but also because two really wonderful events happen in June. It is Read Caribbean month, and it's also Pride month, which means that Queer Lit Readathon is happening in June. And I'm going to leave all the information for these two events down below, the announcement videos from the host, all that fun stuff down below. I've pulled out two piles of books, one that's specific for Read Caribbean and one for Queer Lit Readathon, my physical books that I can pick from, right? These are my piles of possibilities. Thank you, cousin. So let's start with Read Caribbean. So I have only taken part in Read Caribbean once last year, and I just fell in love with the amount of new books that you discover when you check out everybody's TBRs, when you check out the Read Caribbean hashtag on Instagram or here on YouTube. It's really amazing. I've discovered some fantastic books and some extremely fantastic authors, and so I've accumulated a few books here that are in my pile of possibilities to read for Read Caribbean. So the first is Dominicana by Angie, Cruz. So I've heard of some mixed reviews about this book, but it does interest me. It's about a Dominican woman who comes to the U.S. and about her experience in New York. And I believe there's a marriage involved, and so there's going to be some of that relationship there. I love books about the immigrant experiences because there are multiple. Next is Patsy by Nicole, Dennis-Benn. So this book I've seen really great reviews of, including Didi over at Brown Girl Reading. I'm going to link everybody who I'm mentioning in here down below. But she gave this book a good review, and it's also about a Jamaican immigrant coming to the U.S. and kind of realizing that America, the United States, is not everything it promises to be, and how difficult that is, how difficult it is to think back about everything you left behind, and lots more. That's just like the brief synopsis. So I am really looking forward to reading this book. It's been on my TBR for like a year, so I'm really interested in this one. A few more here on my physical pile. This one is The Kingdom of This World by Alejo Carpinter. This is about Haiti and the Haitian Revolution. It is the work of fiction, but it looks like it is really well researched and a lot of it based on historical fact. And I'm always looking for books that are, set in the Caribbean that can be used for one of my world history classes or one of my French history classes. So I really have been meaning to read this for a long time. It looks like Alejo Carpinter is actually Cuban. It looks like it's Cuban, yeah. And this is a translated work. So that all kinds of interesting layers happening with this particular one. The next one on my list is My Life as an Ice Cream Sandwich by Zoboi. This is a middle grade book, and I was already interested in this because Zoboi writes really wonderful stories. I really enjoy all of her young adult stories, and I love middle grade, so I was already going to pick this up at some point, and then I started hearing reviews, and I knew I had to pick it up. So it is about a young girl who's spending, I believe it's the summer, with her grandparents in New York, and she's really into sci-fi, and nobody else seems to be around her, and just how she spends, this time with her grandparents in New York. So I'm super interested. The last one from my Read Caribbean pile here is La Guaracha de Macho, Camacho. This is by Rafael Sanchez, and I got the right edition, I believe. This one I heard from Alba over at Seriela. Her channel name is Seriela. This is a Puerto Rican classic. It seems to have a lot of like humor and tragedy about dance and music, and the way that Alba talked about it just sounded wonderful. I did buy the Spanish edition, and this is the edition that she had read, I believe, because it has a lot of context, a lot of footnotes, and whenever picking up a piece of classic literature from a different country, I find that that is really useful to pick up an edition that can contextualize and provide some of the literary analysis that you normally get like in a class, if I were taking like a class on Puerto Rican literature, for example. So I am excited about this one, and I haven't picked up a book in Spanish in a while, so I'm thinking this might be it. Oh look, I'm looking at all the extra material put in here other than just the book, and I'm like, oh, okay. This might be fun. Okay, this might have just jumped to the top of my list. Okay, so that is, oh no, one more. So I do have an ebook that I just checked out from my library. My local library actually has a really nice collection of Caribbean books by Caribbean authors. And that actually surprised me because my old library is really good with having books by writers from a diverse background, but they were not good with Caribbean authors, but my current library does. So I've checked out Claire of the Sea Light by Edwidde Danticat. I have meant to read him last year and I never got around to it. And my library has several of his books, so I just checked out Claire of the Sea Light, and I will be getting to this one for sure. As I usually have at least one physical book going and at least one ebook going, and I know this will be one of my ebooks during the month of June. So okay, now let's go to my Queer Lit Readathon pile of possibilities, because I haven't looked at all the prompts and I haven't matched up books to the prompts for Queer Lit Readathon. I love using readathons to expand my reading. In terms of queer books, I am generally doing really good at adding them into my reading throughout every month of the year. So what I am hoping to use a Queer Lit Readathon for is, one, to focus on, during that week that Queer Readathon is happening, on books by queer authors, but also on like non-binary and trans authors and stories. And also books that are on my physical shelf because I'm moving, and so I need to decide if these books I want to, well, all of these, I need to decide, are they good, are they not, am I going to keep them, am I good, am I not? I have a hard time getting rid of books, so probably I'm going to keep them all regardless, but let's start. I'm just going to go, I don't have my pile organized in any kind of way. I just really was grabbing books off the shelf and I was like, yeah, that one's queer, this one's Caribbean. That's what I did right before this video. That's why this is a pile of possibilities and not a strict TBR. But the first book at the top of my pile here is Sorrowland by River Solomon. First of all, how gorgeous is this jacket? I thought it was amazing. So River Solomon wrote The Deep, which was a story that really, like, still when I think about it, I'm like, that was just an amazing story, difficult to read and all of that, but amazing. And so I've been meaning to read more of their work for a long time, and this is their more recent release. In reading the synopsis, it looks like it's about a woman who is leaving a religious compound and then starts undergoing a transformation or transformations. The woman is pregnant when she leaves the compound and is trying to manage all of the family turmoil. That sounds good, by the way, but just because it's River Solomon, I was going to read it regardless. This is a gothic story as well, so that's what I know about it, and I'm really leaning towards reading that. And actually, I just remembered that I have another one of Solomon's books on my shelf somewhere. I'm going to go back at some point and pull it out. But another one here at the top of my pile is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. Boulley. So this is a story about a native young woman. From what I have heard of reviews, that this ends up turning into a bit of a murder mystery. Somebody dies in her life, and she knows that that it was not an accident, that it was not suicide, that there has been foul play involved, but she needs to find the evidence for that. The author is native herself, and so this is own voices, and I'm really interested in this. I also haven't picked up a ton of YA recently, so we'll see how I do with that, because I have a few more young adult books in my pile. The next one on my list is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This is about a trans Latinx boy who is trying to prove to his family that he can still do magic. And it seems like the magic that his family practices is very much based on gender, and so that's why his being trans plays a role in that, and why he needs to prove something to his family. Aiden Thomas is trans as well, so this is the thing that I've been focusing on making sure that not just the stories I'm reading have trans characters, but that the authors I'm reading are queer authors, so that I am supporting trans stories and queer stories that way. The next book is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This is less about lesbian necromancers. That was like what everybody was, how everyone was describing, and I immediately was like, yes, please. It might seem odd to be reading a horror book in the summer, but it somehow fits my mood recently. And this one's got sprayed edges. I managed to go on with sprayed edges. This apparently has quite a bit of horror in it, and looking at the reviews people did and remembering back to when people were reading this book more, that some people DNF'd it. So we'll see how I do. A few more on my pile here. This is The Death of Vivek by Akwaeke Emezi. I love the writing so much. I've now read a couple of Akwaeke Emezi books, and I've just been so amazed by their work. This one is set in Nigeria. It looks like about a mother, about Vivek, struggling with life, with different things, and I know that this is a lot darker. When listening to some of the reviews, people were making me aware of that, and I was really grateful, because I just bought it because Emezi's work is magnificent, and I knew I had to have this book. But it's good to know about some of these things going in, especially because I've been managing a lot of my anxiety and depression lately. So the last book, is this the last book on my list? I think so. This is Pat by Akwaeke Emezi, and this is a middle grade book following a young girl who lives in a world in which all monsters have been eradicated, eliminated, but she sees them. She sees them, and is having a really hard time convincing the adults in her life that there are still monsters around. So it's allegorical, and again, I think Akwaeke Emezi, now that I'm seeing them write in different genres, I'm just even more amazed at the kind of work that they do. I've heard really great things about this book as well, and so I'm probably going to start with this one. Ooh, am I making decisions here now? Probably. Yes, I really want to get to this one. I have a few other things on my TBR for June. I have a book club book that I need to pick up, and a few other things that I'm in the middle of. So I'm not exclusively reading Caribbean and queer authors, but it will be the majority of my reading in June. So I know several of you have read some of these books and have some thoughts to share on this. Please let me know all of your thoughts down below. Even if you didn't like some of these books, tell me if you think I'm gonna like them. And if you haven't, if you're not participating in Read Caribbean, in the Read Caribbean event, or in the Queer Lit Readathon, are you still going to be focusing on trying to get in at least one book written by an author from the Caribbean or a queer author? Let me know. I think part of these events is just to kind of bring more people into these literatures and make people aware and get you to pick up one or two, you know. I know some. I want to acknowledge that it's not easy for everyone, and that it's not all individuals' faults, right? Like there's a whole body of literature in both of these categories. For me, it has been really easy to pick up these books, to incorporate them into my reading, to make my reading very diverse. But I know that it's easier for those of us in the global north, for those of us with disposable income, without other financial responsibilities, for those of us near good public libraries, it's easier. So if you don't have those things, it can be harder to find. It also, because the publishing can make it very hard to find some of these books at times, because they don't promote them the way they promote other books, because they don't make them as available as they make other books. And so that's another reason why I really wanted to do this TBR, to make sure that I'm recommending some things. Some of these things are widely available. Other things are not quite as widely available. I don't think most of us can find the guaracha del Macho Camacho in our public libraries. And yet, it's out there. And if you have the means of getting a hold of it, if you have the means of reading it, and the desire to do so, then maybe after hearing me talk about it, you will do so. Or maybe you'll realize that, nope, okay, this one's not available to you, but maybe, you realize that you're not reading a whole lot of books by Puerto Rican authors, and maybe that'll get you going into a hunt looking for Puerto Rican authors. So that's the point of this, hopefully. So let me know what Caribbean books you might add to your TBR, or you're adding to TBR, and what books by queer authors you're adding to your TBR in the month of June. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.